Jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I have one additional verse here, which I just wrote out, because yesterday we had one meeting of the revisions review panel of the BBT, and we had a consultation in this meeting with Dravida Prabhu, who is one of the BBT English editors, or I think he's the BBT English editor now, since decades. We were consulting with Dravida Prabhu, and Dravida is famous for his recitation of verses, Sanskrit verses, and also he composes wonderful metrical verses in English. And whenever he's really happy to share verses that he likes to remember. So you just sort of push a button on him. You say, Prabhu, can you recite a verse? Oh, yes. And then he'll recite some verse. And this is the verse that he recited, but I can't, he recited from memory. I can't do that. I've just started with it, nor can I get quite, it has a quite special syncopated rhythm, as Dravida Prabhu said. It's jazz, and he says because some verses in the Veda Stuti of the Bhagavatam we understand were spoken by them before creation, And some of those are have very special jazzy meters. So he says jazz existed prior to the creation. So anyway, the verse goes like this. If you want to find it online, it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antilila, chapter 20, verse 156. It's the second to the very last verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Parimalavasita bhuvanam sarason maditara lambam giridhara charan samihate hatum. Realized devotees are like bumblebees, maddened by their own mellows at Krishna's lotus feet. The scent of those lotus feet perfumes the entire world. Soul that could give them up. Who is the realized soul who could give up the lotus feet of the Lord? Their scent is spreading all over the entire world. I thought also it's a nice verse, a meditation for this time of pandemonium, because we're all concerned about the air we breathe. So the transcendental air that we can breathe is the transcendental aroma of Krishna's lotus feet. Okay, let us sing Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura's song. This is Bhajana Lalasa song number 5. And this is based on verse number 5 of Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita. And it goes like this: Hari he sańga-dos a-śūnya dīks itādīks jadi tava nāma gā'ya mānase ādara koribo tāhāre jāni nija-jana tāya. O Lord, I will mentally honor and consider as my brother one who avoids bad company and sings your holy name, be he formally initiated or not. Dikshita hoiyā bhaje tuwā pada tāhāre pranati kori ananya-bhajane bhaje jana tāhāre shebibo hari. I offer obeisance to that person who is initiated and worships your lotus feet, and I will serve, O Lord, anyone who is fixed in unalloyed devotion to you. Sarva-bhūte sham je bhaktir mati tāhāre darshane mani apana ke danno she Sanga charitartha hoilum jāni. I consider myself greatly fortunate to even see that devotee who looks upon all living beings equally. By obtaining his association, I know that I become successful in life. And the last verse, Nishkapatamati Vaishnavera prati dharma kabe pabo kabu sangsar sindhu para hoye tava braja pure jabo. When will my mind become simple and inoffensive toward the Vaishnavas? And when will I cross over the ocean of worldly existence to reach your abode of Raja? So this is the last line is the Lalasa, the longing expression. Okay, this, let's see if this Harmonium wants to work today. Hari Sanga-dos a-śūnya itādīks jadi tava nāma gā'ya mānase ādara koribo tāhāre jāni nija-jana tāya Sanga-dos a-śūnya itādīks jadi tava nāma gā'ya mānase ādara koribo tāhāre jāni nija-jana tāya dīksita hoiyā bhaje tuwā tāhāre pranati koribo ananya-bhajane nija-jana tāhāre sevibo hari dīksita hoiyā bhaje tuwā tāhāre pranati koribo ananya-bhajane nija-jana tāhāre sevibo hari sarva-bhūte shama je bhaktir mati tarhara darshane mani apanake dana sanga-bhaya charitartha hoilun jāni sarva-bhūte shama je bhaktir mati tarhara darshane mani apanake dana sanga-bhaya charitartha hoilun jāni nishkapata mati vaishnavya prati e dharma kave pavo kave saṅga sindhu para hoye tava braja pure jabo nishkapata mati vaishnavya prati e dharma kave bhavo kave saṅga sindhu para hoye tava braja pure jabo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Haribo, Haribo, Gaur Haribo, Nitai Gaur Haribo, Gaur Haribo. Okay, let's go through the song again with English and Bangla. And we might, let's see. Yeah, okay. We have one Bengali language expert with us today. Deva Shiranika Devidasi has joined us from Zurich, so we might be asking for some help from her if she's willing. So Sanga-dos a-śūnya, actually I guess Bangla would be dikita, not dikshita. Huh? O Lord, I will mentally honor and consider as my brother one who avoids bad company and sings your holy name, be he formally initiated or not. So the formally initiated or not here is dikshita, or again in Bengali, modern Bengali, in any case, dikita. Like Srila Prabhupada used to say, Maharaj Parikit. Jodi tava naam gā'ya, if your name, referring to the Lord, so addressing the Lord, if your name is being sung, gā'ya, by such person, mānase ādara, I honor that person, ādara, mānase, in my mind. Or koribo, I will honor that person in my mind. The tāhāre of that of him, I guess. Jāni, nija-jana, tāya, jāniya. In this case, it's knowing, but I think it's more like regarding. Jāniya nija-jana tāya, will regard that person as one of mine. So it's translated here by Dasharat Sutta Prabhu as I consider as my brother. And then the next verse, dīkshita hoiyā. So having been initiated, formally initiated, dīkshita hoiyā, bhaje tuwā pada, I will worship Sorry, he is worshiping your feet, the Lord's feet. Tāhāre pranati kori. I will offer obeisance, or I do offer obeisance. Ananya-bhajane vigna jana. Tāhāre sevibo. Hari. I will serve that person, O Hari, who is ananya-bhajane, who is engaged in worship of no other. And jana. I'm not sure. Vigya, without obstacle. Let's go on. Sarva-bhūte shamo Jai Bhaktir Mati. So we come to the third category of devotee. Tāhāre darshane mani. I consider myself greatly fortunate to even see that person, to see that devotee who looks upon all living beings equally. Sarva-bhūte sam, someone who regards all living beings as equal. Jai Bhaktir Mati, that devotee's mind, in that devotee's mind. Tāhāre darshane mani. Mani, I regard the darshan of that person. Or I take this as fortune. Apanake danya. Danya, I think here is fortune. My own fortune, apanake. Sangapaya, having received his association, obtained his association, charita arta hoilun jāni. Charitarta, success of life, charita, hoilun has happened. I understand it has happened, jāni. Nishkapatamati, here in this verse is the word kabe, when. When will my mind become simple and inoffensive? Nishkapate mati. And when will my mind become simple and inoffensive toward the Vaishnavas? Vaishnavera prati. Prati is with regard to, or in relation to. And when will I cross over the ocean of worldly existence? Shangshar Sindhu Par Hoje Kabe. When will this happen that I will cross this ocean of worldly existence to reach your abode? Tava Braj Pure Jabo. To go to your abode. Okay, so I don't want to embarrass you, but Devashri Radhika, do you want to say anything about the Bangla of these verses?
Thank you, Maharaj, very much. This part, ananya-bhajane jana. Perhaps Vigya here means that the one who knows ananya-bhajan. So the one who is initiated and serves your lotus feet, I pay my obeisances unto such a person. And the one who knows ananya-bhajana, that such a person I shall serve. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how I saw it.
Okay, so this is the second verse, and it's it appears here as third line. Vigya, you're saying Vigya, one who knows. Jana, that person, Vigya, ananya-bhajane, who knows this bhajan which is of no one else. Like that?
I would assume so. I could be wrong, but that's how I
No,
would
it
assume.
sounds as good as anything else. Okay. Good, thank you. As I said, this verse is obviously based on Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita verse 5. So I thought we could look at that briefly. Krishneti yasya giritang manasadriyeta dīkshasti chet pranativischa bhajantam isham shushushaya bhajana vigyam ananya-bhajane nindari shunya hridam ipsita sanga-labdya. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisance to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, and is engaged in worshiping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Srila Prabhupada gives a quite long purport to this verse. It has this progression with respect to offering respect. And you can say in general, it's a guide for association with devotees in terms of offering respect. And it's making distinctions. And these distinctions, Srila Prabhupada explains, are the distinctions of the three levels of advancement which are described in the 11th canto of Bhagavatam, canto 11, chapter 2. Archayam eva haraye pujam ya shraddhaye hate natat bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smrita is the lower level, someone who, and it's interesting if you think about it, one who is not yet initiated but is chanting the holy name is described in this verse as one who is worshiping the deity but is not giving respect to other devotees. Okay, there's some sort of correlation or parallel here. And then the second level from the Bhagavatam, Ishvare tat adineshu balisheshu dvishatsucha prema maitri kripopeksha ya karoti samadhyama, is interesting because it's describing the madhyama, which in the parallel of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura's verse, song, and this verse would correlate, so to say, with the devotee who is formally initiated. But within this verse, it's describing how the Madhyama Adhikari relates to different levels of advancement, including how he or she relates to the Lord. Ishvare tat adineshu. Prema, one relates to the Lord with love. Maitri, one relates with friendship with the devotees. Adina, those who are not fallen. And Balisheshu, one is merciful, kripa, giving mercy to those who are innocent. And upeksha, one is keeping a respectful distance from those who are not respectful. And Prabhupada doesn't give here the third level, the uttama. Let's see, maybe later on he gives in the purport. But it's a very interesting purport. And there's one or two encouraging verses that he quotes from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, in this purport, Madhya Lila 2269. Jahara komala shraddha se kanishta jono krame krame te ho bhakta hoibe uttama. One whose faith is soft and pliable is called a neophyte. But by gradually following the process, he will rise to the platform of a first-class devotee. So that's nice. Krame krame tenho bhakta hoibe uttama. So we all have a chance. There's hope for all of us that we can progress krame krame. Not just a little bit, but Mahaprabhu says we can become uttama, we can come to the highest level. He quotes, Prabhupada also quotes from, again, Chaitanya Charitamrita, a bit earlier, Madhya Lila 15. He's speaking to Srila Satyaraj Khan, a great devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, Prabhu kahe jara mukke shuni ekobar Krishnam she puja sreshta shobakar. If one hears a person say even once the word Krishna, that person should be accepted as the best man out of the common group. If one even once says Krishna, and it doesn't say in what mood the person says, just if someone says Krishna, that's the best person in any group of people. He goes on to say a little later, Ataeva jara mukke ekka Krishnanam seto Vaishnav koriho tāhāre shraman. One who is interested in chanting the holy name of Krishna, or who by practice likes to chant Krishna's names, should be accepted as a Vaishnava and offered respects as such, at least within the mind. So that goes back to the beginning of the verse, Krishneti yasya, what do I want to say? Giri. Krishneti yasya giritang mānasa adriyeta. And this is little technical grammar here, but adriyeta, this would be in the optative case, which is, it's not the full imperative, but it has a very, generally has a fairly strong imperative sense to it. One should do. What should one do? One should honor. One should honor how? Mānasa, with the mind. That's the instrumental case, or by the mind. Who should one honor by the mind? Krishna iti yasya giritam. That person who chants, who expresses the word Krishna, Krishna iti, the name Krishna. And what I find interesting is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying in addition to this in his song, mānase ādara, okay, he's worshiping, or sorry, honoring in the mind, koribo, tāhāre, I will do this, jāni, nija-jana tāya. And this jāni has this apostrophe, which means that it's filling in for the final syllable ya So it would be jāni-ya, which is the gerund form, as I understand. Jāni-ya, knowing or having known or having understood. Jāni-ya, nija-jana, regarding that person as a relative, as a brother in the translation of Dasharatha Sutta. So that's very nice. It's very inclusive. And then he goes on, dīkshita hoiyā bhaje tuwā pada tāhāre pranati kori. And again, this lines up with the verse. Diksha asti chet, if someone has received diksha, pranati bihi, with obeisances, plural, not just one obeisance, but plural. Bhajantam, that person engaged in devotional service, isham, to the Lord. And then the third verse is in line with the third line of the Sanskrit verse, shushushaya, bhajana vigyam ananya-bhajane, third and fourth line, nindadi shunya hridam, ipsita sanga labdya. Labdya, with gaining the sanga, which is desirable, ipsita. What is that desirable sanga? It's that of one who is bhajana vigya. Here we get the word vigya in the Sanskrit, which we had in the Bengali in the second verse. Bhajana vigyam, which is translated here, one who is advanced in devotional service, in the word for word. Ananyam, so worship of none other. So it seems that Bhaktivinoda Thakur shifts that up to referring to the person initiated diksha, the second category. And then anya ninda adi a-śūnya hridam, the person whose heart is pure, shunya, or devoid, shunya, of ninda adi, of offense, etc., of making, of the inclination, as Prabhupada so nicely puts it, the tendency, or how does he put it? Whose heart is completely devoid, shunya, of the propensity to criticize others. Propensity, this English word propensity means a tendency, having the inclination, so devoid of that. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur's last verse is expressing the longing. When will that time come? Kabe nishkapatamati vaishnaver prati e dharma kabe pabo. When will my mind become simple and inoffensive? Nishkapata mati. Simple and inoffensive toward the Vaishnavas. And when will I cross over the ocean of worldly existence to reach your abode of Raja? So the longing expression, and of course with the longing is also a sense of anticipation. That time will come, as we also read, just krame, as we proceed in our practice, jahar komala shraddha se kanishta jana, krame tenho bhakta hoiyā uttama. Uttama, we can say, means anticipating, longing for, and anticipating, and eventually reaching the spiritual abode. Hare Krishna. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakura ki jai. So let's see if anyone wants to share something. Show and tell time. We didn't have any pre-scheduled, but that doesn't mean we can't have unscheduled. If anyone has something, maybe I should see what's happening in the chat. Everyone's greeting everyone. Okay. As I mentioned last time, today, if everything works as planned, we will have a very nice guest, surprise guest with us in less than 20 minutes. So before that, I want to go back to our Bhagavatam 8th canto, and I also want to, maybe before that. Yeah, let's do this before, because otherwise I may miss. So one thing we want to do is share with you a link to the film which Chitrakarani has been working on for literally years now, close to 4 years. And you are all invited to watch this film, the Book of Wisdom. What is it called? The Book of Wisdom. In its Book of Wisdom, the Bhagavata Purana. It's an hour-long film, documentary, which we started filming in January 2017. And Chitrakarani, is she here with us? She's been working on it ever since. Wait, I have to change this to everyone. Yeah. And you're all invited to preview this at your leisure when you have time. That's supposed to work as a link. I hope it works as a link. It doesn't look like. Huh? Let me see if it links to anything. No, I don't know why that. Help.
I think, Guru Maharaj, that Chitrakarni said she would remove the movie after a while.
No, but then she put it back, or she put it in a different place just a few minutes ago, saying that we just for us. But let's see. Well, it works when I do that from elsewhere, but it doesn't seem to want to work from here. Well, maybe, no, copy. Okay, what I'll do is, here I've got the link as a normal link, and I'll paste that here. Okay, that should work now. Yeah, so this is an hour-long film, and it's not completely finished because it will have English subtitles. Eventually, it will also have other subtitles, depending on the preparation of subtitles. We already have being worked on Chinese version, and I think also Turkish version. So, yeah. Okay, so I won't say more about that, except to say you're welcome to watch it. And also, Chitrakarani is asking us to look with a critical eye, which is to say, if there's something in particular you think might be improved. Of course, we can all find so many things. I should point out this is a low-budget film. My godbrother, Yogeshwar Prabhu in New York, who has considerable professional experience with filmmaking, told me one time when I expressed interest to make a documentary on the Bhagavatam, he said, don't even think about making a film with less than $100,000. Well, the budget for the film that you will see is, I don't know, maybe 1/10 of that. In any case, you're welcome to see it. And if you have comments for it, I think, don't direct them to me. You could direct them, I guess, directly to Chitrakarani, or I'm not quite sure how that can be managed. Maybe Dharmagupta has an idea. Yeah, okay, Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'm looking at Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 9, verse 29. Yat yujate suvasukarma mano vachobir dehatmajad ishunibis tadasat pritaktvat. Tair eva sat pavati yat kriyate pritaktvat sarvasya tat pavati mula nishechanang yat. In human society, there are various activities performed for the protection of one's wealth and life by one's words, one's mind, and one's actions. But they are all performed for one's personal or extended sense gratification with reference to the body. All these activities are baffled because of being separate from devotional service. But when the same activities are performed for the satisfaction of the Lord, the beneficial results are distributed to everyone, just as water poured on the root of a tree is distributed throughout the entire tree. This is coming in the context of Mohini Murti having distributed the nectar not to the asuras, but to the devatas. It says in verse 23, the demons had developed affection for Mohini Murti and a kind of faith in her. And they were afraid of disturbing their relationship. Therefore, they showed respect and honor to her words and did not say anything that might disturb their friendship with her. Now, the irony in this verse is very thick, because here we have none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the disguise of a beautiful woman, Mohini Murti, to whom the demons are now attracted and in whom they now have some kind of faith, it says. in Prabhupada's translation. Tasyam kritati pranaya pranaya paya kātara. Krita ati pranaya, because of, in his word for word, staunch friendship. They had friendship with the Lord in this particular form, in any case. And therefore, pranaya apaya kātara, they were afraid that their friendship with her would be broken, and therefore they didn't protest when she began the distribution to the devas, as she was smiling and saying, she explains, oh, let's give it to the devas first, because they're not so advanced as you, asuras. They won't understand. If I give it to you first, they'll be very disturbed. So we'll first give to them, and then we'll give it to you. Yes, okay. And in this way, of course, the demons are bewildered. But now here's the thing. Well, okay, let's go on with the verses up to 29, because now comes the episode with Rahu. What did Rahu do? He covered himself with the dress of a demigod, and thus entered the assembly of the demigods and drank nectar without being detected by anyone, even by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The moon and the sun, however, because of permanent animosity toward Rahu, understood the situation. Thus, Rahu was detected. Now, in the purports, I won't have time to go through these, but in the purports, it seems like Prabhupada is saying, well, the Lord knows everything, so he also knew what's going on, but he's allowing it to go on because he has a purpose, and the purpose is to demonstrate the potency of the nectar. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, using his disc, which was sharp like a razor, at once cut off Rahu's head. So we have more head chopping as we had in the pastime of Parashuram. When Rahu's head was severed from his body, the body, being untouched by the nectar, could not survive. Rahu's head, however, having been touched by the nectar, became immortal. Thus, Lord Brahma accepted Rahu's head as one of the planets. Since Rahu is an eternal enemy of the moon and the sun, he always tries to attack them on the nights of the full moon and the dark moon. Now that would, if we had more time, we could get some consultation with our astrologer, Rasundari Hari. I think he's with us. But maybe we'll have to wait for that, because I want to now make a request, and a suggestion and a request, you may say, for any of you who want to try it, a bit of homework for next week. And the homework is to write a dialogue, a dramatic dialogue, a very short dramatic dialogue. It can take, I would say, maximum 2 minutes to read. And it's quite okay if it's less than that. And the dialogue is on what subject? It's taking any two personalities from within this whole pastime of churning the ocean of milk. It might be a dialogue between Rahu and the moon. It might be between one of the demons and one of the devas while they are churning. It might be Mohini Murti and someone else. And if you like, you can change the context. You can make it a modern context if you like. Let your imagination take you wherever it wants to go. And then next week, we'll invite you to read your dialogues. How does this sound? And if we have a lot of dialogues, we may need to spend more time because we have another event also next week. I believe next week we have an initiation. So, but in any case, you are welcome. This is something you can think about. I would say, don't think too long because the week goes quickly. So start writing, sometime by the middle of the week at least. Start writing something and see what you come up with. I think this will be fun. If you want to have, as a dialogue, and you want to do it as a dialogue with one other person that you are with, then you can invite them to join as well for that time. How does it sound? Okay, I just had this idea this morning, and I think it can be fun. And it's a way to think about Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna's pastimes. Yeah. Okay, we have, do we have our guest arriving yet, Dharma Gupta?
No, Guru Maharaj, I can't see him yet, so I'm just,
okay.
I'll let you know. He should join every minute.
Okay, I'll see chat. Chat is okay. Great, okay. Dee-dum. I don't want to start with something else because I want to jump in as soon as our guest comes.
Guru Maharaj, should I share something shortly? It's not show and tell, but just tell in 1 minute.
Yes, okay.
I was thinking maybe it will be inspiring for some devotees because now we cannot see each other so much in person. But we're doing a lot of reading groups, and I think it's also popular to do it online. Now we are fortunate here in Radhadesh, we have few reading groups in person, and we do it very simply. We just meet and read a book that inspires everybody. And there's different formats that we are doing. So in one group, we are just reading Venu Gita, and it's like meditational reading where we have some music and then we share reflections on Venu Gita and the pastimes. And in one, we just read the book of Yamuna Devi with the audio of Dinatarani and see the pictures and so on. And then at the end, reflect on that. And in one group, we read Krishna book together whenever we have time. It's more spontaneous. But I think there's different formats that devotees do all over the world with some prepared questions. We're not so prepared, but I think this is something that's possible. And it really enables one to connect deeper and share some insights.
Yeah, very good, very good. You know, I had this funny thought that after this whole pandemic situation passes and things go back to normal, there's going to be, of course, a lot of happiness. And I think there's going to be some lamentation also that, oh, during that time we had these nice reading groups and so on, but now we don't have time for this. I'm almost expecting that to happen. One more thing I have to share with you. This is just kind of for fun, and it's, how to say, maybe a little tangential to our normal sphere of spiritual practice. But this is a link to a song which is done as a chorus online, but from people all over the world. And one of the people all over the world who appears at, I noted it down, at at minute 2 and 37 seconds on the top left corner, my older brother, will appear. He joins in the singing of this song. So it's a very nice song also. And the way the person has arranged it is really quite nice. Okay. So is our guest with us?
Not yet, Guru Maharaj.
Not yet. Okay.
Oh, yes. He just joined. Yes, he's here.
Okay. Well, can he appear before us? Because I don't see him yet. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
There you are. Brahma Tirtha Prabhu.
Yeah.
Pancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much for joining us so early in the morning for you.
Well, it's 8 o'clock, not so early, but sorry for the delay, a little technical snafu, but I'm here.
That's quite okay. So let me introduce you to everyone here. Brahma Tirtha Prabhu is my brother who is better known in Khan. I'm sure you get introduced this way all the time, but he's better known by his how to say, legal name, Bob Cohen, because it is Brahma Tirtha as Bob Cohen who spoke with Srila Prabhupada questions which came to be known as perfect questions, to which Srila Prabhupada then answered perfect answers. And soon after they had these conversations, which were recorded, of course, Srila Prabhupada was so happy with them that he had devotees transcribe and then publish as a book, Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers, which is now in, how many times has it been reprinted in English?
Oh, I don't know, but I think it's 44 languages.
44 languages. It's probably more than any other BBT book, I would think. Maybe Ishopanishad has more. But in any case, for this, you are better known, but we thought it would be nice if you can be also more personally known to all the devotees here by your personal appearance. And so
Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're with us. Maybe you can tell us a little, first of all, how this happened, that you met Srila Prabhupada. I know it's a Peace Corps story. Can you say a bit how this came about for everyone?
Yeah, first of all, I'm so glad to see you again, Maharaj. We've had such good times together at the GTU and then in Gainesville and our weekly kirtans, and I miss all of that.
Yes,
times we spent together.
I should say that Brahmatirtha Prabhu has always my gratitude for so many things. I consider him one of my mentors, and also it was Brahmatirtha who arranged for my first real, how can we say, my first real job after finishing my academic studies. He arranged for me to come and teach at the University of Florida for 1 year, for 2 semesters. And then I had such a nice time being there in Gainesville for that time, getting so much of his and many, many nice devotees association.
Yeah, and Maharaj, you've always been the inspiration for me with your calm, very inviting presentation. The way you present Krishna is folks don't feel judged, they feel invited. And that's always been a problem in the movement since the very early days I've been involved. Do we feel judged or do we feel invited? Later on, I'll tell you a story of how Prabhupada dealt with me on that issue. A very intimate story, but I always so much appreciated, and I always see you as my mentor. And now that we have begun the Bhaktivedanta Institute in full earnest, we expect you to be our guest here in the near future.
Hare Krishna.
Very much so. Just so you know, this, I'll put it up here. This is the Bhaktivedanta Institute's new headquarters in Gainesville.
Yeah.
And it used to be the house of the president of the university. And our first guest is living in that room in the upper right, and that's Jayadvaita Swami.
Oh, very good.
So and our library, which today we start under Keshihanta supervision, stacking the books on the shelves, include over 3,000 books, including the entire library of Shaya Eisenberg and the late Gene Thursby.
Oh, very interesting. Okay, very good.
And you know Gene so well.
I don't know him well. I met him.
Oh,
I met him once.
He had retired when you were there.
Yeah, I met him once only.
Oh, okay. And we have the library of Vidyananda, who passed on, and he was one of the original Project Matya, so it's original Bhaktivinoda editions, etc.
Oh,
and then on top of that, Krishna Kshetra has moved to, not Krishna, you're Krishna, Krishna Abhishek has moved to Gainesville, literally across the street from me, so the IVS and the BI can join forces.
Krishna Abhishek moved to Gainesville.
Literally across the street from me. I walk out my front door, straight ahead, I'm in his house. I arranged the house for him, I mean. But
well, there's a story about your house also. Maybe how you bought it, sold it, and bought it again.
Yeah. And so all these things happening. First, let me see, is there anybody, I see there's so many people here today. Is there anybody here who I've met before? At least I should greet and say hello, but I only have one screen worth of people in front of me. But is there, I've been to Croatia.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking I must have met somebody. Is there anybody who I've met before? Could you say hello?
Yeah, send a message.
Yes,
But
send a
that was some
message.
years ago. The last time you were in Croatia, when was that?
Well, that was about 14 years ago.
Yeah.
I had always promised Sridhar Swami. I actually wasn't Croatia. It was
Slovenia.
Slovenia, not Croatia. I visited, but I had promised. I had promised Sridhar Swami that I would visit that area before he died. He said, you have to go there. So I feel very obligated to go again.
Yeah.
Yeah, hospitality was simply wonderful. I do stay in touch with my friend Mayapur.
Yeah, it's good.
And then my brother wrote a book about Croatia and Serbia. I told you about that.
Oh, yeah.
So that gave me another connection there.
Yeah.
Okay. Mukunda's here, I think. Mukunda, are you here?
Yes, Mukunda. And Pandava is also saying hello. He says he cooked in, he says the Blue House. I don't know if that's part of Krishna House or what.
Probably. I know Pandava. No, where is Pandava? Say something so your picture pops up front. Where is Pandava? Can Pandava say something?
I don't know.
Hello.
Oh, there
Hare
he
Krishna.
is. Hey, Pandava, long time.
Yes, long time. Nice to see you.
Nice to hear you again. No, we were old friends, used to hang out all the time. And then Mukunda is offering me the famous Slovenian ice cream. And Anupama, yes, I remember we spoke with Hriday Nanaraj. And then we have the wife of Kalakanta, the cow person who our BI folks are still in touch with. And okay, very good. Well,
it's a small world.
Yeah, and I want to greet people I know and offer kind respect. In 1968-ish, I was wandering around Greenwich Village in New York. Now, let me ask, is everyone here an English speaker?
Those who are not are getting simultaneous translation in Polish and Spanish.
Okay, and if
Otherwise,
I speak...
if you don't speak too fast, they can manage.
And if I'm speaking too fast, they should let me know, or I'll repeat something. Because I'm getting used to giving classes in translation now.
Right.
And also, it's a little more complex because most of you don't know that English is my second language. See, I'm from New Jersey, and those of us from New Jersey say English is our second language because of the accent we pick up there.
Or maybe third language, because there's New Jersey, there's American, and then there's English.
Exactly. Now I'm in the South, so it might be fourth. Yeah. So around 1967 or 8, I was in New York City, and there was a Harinam party. And on the party, Jayadvaita Swami tells me he was highly likely on the party. And I saw these people in the streets of New York. And I used to go hang out in the village. I was just a teenager. And it was strange. You always saw these in Greenwich Village in the hippie days. You saw a lot of strange folks.
Maybe I should explain. Greenwich Village is a small area of a few blocks within Manhattan. Manhattan Island is the central part of what we call New York City. So Greenwich Village. Go ahead.
Okay. And in that time, that was the hippie capital of the east side of America. San Francisco was the hippie capital of the west side. And I used to go visit the village and wander around just to looking for something. I didn't know what I was looking for. I had grown up with a disability, so I spent many hours trying to avoid people, hiding in the woods, wondering what death was about. I couldn't figure, death bewildered me. Nobody could ever die. Something inside me said, no one could ever die, but people were dying. And it really bewildered me. So I was looking for solutions to that, reading books on philosophy and whatever. Then when I was in Greenwich Village, I'd wander in the bookstores. I picked up a Gita. Maharaj, you're familiar with the Gita, Franklin Edgerton's.
Yes.
And then Franklin Edgerton's Gita, he says, Tat Twamasi, thou art that. In other words, I'm God, you're God. That didn't resonate very well with me, but the Gita I found to be a great curiosity.
Right.
So then when I saw the devotees chanting, I didn't know what it was, but I had two impressions. One, they were the biggest exhibitionists, meaning show-offs. In the village, you had many people who were like that in Greenwich Village, just dressing different. In order to conform, everyone had to be different.
Right.
Just like nowadays, if you go to the higher end stores in America, you can buy a pair of jeans for $40. But if you want to buy jeans that already have holes in it, that costs you $50.
I've seen jeans for $200.
Oh, well.
Because they're worn.
Yeah, they're worn. So in other words, you buy something that looks old so you can conform by being a nonconformist. The whole thing was bewildering to me. And when I saw the devotees, I said one of two things. They're either the biggest exhibitionists or in some way they're above it all. Because the devotees, the left sock was green, the right sock was blue. They were wearing some version of a bed sheet, had a tail at the back of their head. I mean, in that time in New York, you saw a lot of strange people, but this was above and beyond strange. And I stood there listening in amazement. I said, maybe these people are above it all. I just didn't know. And then one devotee came up to me, will you buy a Back to Godhead magazine? And I was a very soft touch for panhandlers. Panhandlers meaning people begging for money. So I was a very soft touch. And after the last person I gave money to, I said, the next person I'm just going to yell no, because I'm just tired of it. So some devotee comes up to me, will you take a magazine? I go, no. But I regretted that. I really regretted it because something stuck in my mind from the Maha Mantra. It really stuck deep. And then some of you have seen the play or the movie Hair. And in this play, it was a play about the hippie anti-war generation. In this play, it was an extremely popular play on Broadway in New York. And in this play, they twice sing the Hare Krishna mantra. And of course, the last time they sing it, it goes like this: Hare Krishna, happy marijuana, happy marijuana. It goes something like that. In those days, both of those were appealing to me. So I learned the mantra from in those days, record albums. And I just started chanting. And I couldn't get it out of my mind. just like you get a song in your mind, you can't shake it. Well, this was a song I couldn't shake. And it's been half a century. I still can't shake it. So what can I do? The other songs have come and gone, but this one still stays there. Then I went to 26 Second Avenue. I found out where the temple was somehow, because there was no Googling. There was no way to find these things so easily. But I don't even remember how I found it. So finally I said, I'm going to find out what's going on. So I show up at 26 Second Avenue. And just before I got there, devotees had moved down to, I think, 61 Second Avenue. And at that time, nowadays we have many modern inventions. We have cell phones and computers. Those days, we didn't have any of those inventions. And one of the inventions that was missing in those days was the sign saying we have moved down the street. Devotees that sign had not yet apparently been invented.
Right.
That we have moved. A piece of paper, you write on it, we have moved down the street. But that sign wasn't invented. So 6 months later or so, I found out their new address. So I went there to try to find out what's going on.
It took you 6 months.
I mean, you don't Google, you don't, you just, I think I ran into some devotees at the Port Authority bus terminal in New York. I said, where is your place? And so I got the address. And I wasn't living in New York. It was an hour bus ride for me to go to New York. So then I went to that place. But again, it was the same time frame. So it was the pre-sign age, like we have the pre-computer age. So the sign had not yet been invented. So they had moved to 439 Henry Street in Brooklyn.
Oh, no.
So again, I couldn't find them. By then, I'm in college. I'm studying engineering. I go back to New York and I finally find the place and I walk into the temple. And there's a strong smell of incense. And these people dressed in strange ways, speaking a strange jargon that I didn't know what the words meant. And I said, I'm interested in your philosophy. Do you have any books? So they sold when somebody walks in off the street, and I didn't look like a hippie. So, I look like a kind of a normal person. They're very interested. Yes, we'll sell you a book, but they only had one book for sale then that was in stock. Now imagine if your very first book on Krishna consciousness was Nectar of Devotion. So I got this book that smelled like incense and had a beautiful picture on the front. I said, now I'm going to find out what this mantra is about and start understanding the philosophy. And I started reading the book and I said, oh, this makes no sense to me. I must be holding it upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't figure it out because, Nectar Devotion was intended as an internal book for the devotees, the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And it's not an introductory book. I think, Maharaj, it's fair to say that.
I think it's fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, I still couldn't figure it out. So then I went back again and I started understanding a little more. And in college, I read 2 more versions of the Gita for my classes. Dr. Radhakrishn's Gita, which it turns out Prabhupada had said, you can read the verses, but not the purports. And even when I read it then, I wasn't at all a devotee. I thought his purports were off the wall. I just understood it. It didn't tell me anything I wanted to know.
That's because you were actually already a devotee.
Well, I figure, considering that I have a voice made for newspaper, and a face made for radio. But since I had a voice made for newspaper, I figured last life I must have been in India and made fun of a kirtan party and I get my karma. But I mean, it was very clear to me I had lived in India before. I had some very dramatic experiences indicating that to me. So when I read the Gita in college, it fascinated me. And one particular verse, Apichetsudocharo, really stuck in my mind. Now, not in Sanskrit, because I'd never seen Sanskrit before, didn't know any Sanskrit. But English, even if one commits the most abominable activities, if he's on devotional path, he's considered saintly because he's rightly situated. I'm paraphrasing. But that verse struck in my mind. And I said to my professor, I don't know if you know Professor Kohler, K-O-L-L-E-R. He had written several books.
I've come across his name.
Yeah, he was very inspiring to me. He was my professor of Oriental philosophy. I was studying engineering, but
At which university?
A Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in upstate New York. It's a school of nerds.
Okay. But you eventually became a geologist.
I was studying chemistry, and then later on, I did my upper degree in geology.
Okay.
My undergraduate was chemistry. But the only thing that interested me in college was humanities. Everything else was boring me like no end. But I was sort of stuck. And Professor Kohler really, when I asked Professor Kohler, please explain this verse to me, he answered, it's intuitively obvious, meaning he has no idea what it means, none whatsoever. Now this verse is very important. I'll explain why in a moment.
Yes.
Then I said to Professor Kohler, I got to understand India better. He says, you should go to India. So I applied to the Peace Corps. Now the Peace Corps it still exists. It's a program where very hard to get in to, but very easy to get assignments like India in those days, because India was considered the worst assignment in the world.
You filled out your form, 3 options, India, India, India.
That's all I wanted was India.
Yeah.
If I didn't go to India, I wouldn't go. So right before I graduated college, I got my letter saying you've been accepted. I was shocked. I'd forgotten I'd applied.
Oh.
Remember, if you can remember the 60s, you certainly weren't there. So I had forgotten I had applied. And so next thing I know, a month later, I'm on a plane on the way to India. And it was a very surreal plane ride, 32 hours in the same seat, because the flights then couldn't go very far. So it was one of the early 747s, but they didn't have good distance. So it had to stop at many places. So I sat there for 32 hours, finally landed in Delhi, and they pull up the staircase to the plane. There were no jetways. And they had just dug out and added a new runway in New Delhi. And it was a very old terminal, quite decrepit, not like the modern Delhi airport, which is quite modern. I noticed in the modern Delhi airport, they have a beautiful bhajan band playing and a craft store of all the Indian crafts. And right next to it is Victoria's Secrets, selling ladies' underwear. So that's New Delhi.
Yeah.
Quite a contrast. I'm still like, and I saw that, I was like, wow. Anyway, so when I landed in Delhi, they just dug out for a new runway and they didn't know any ecology. So they made a mess and there were these giant hordes of flying cockroaches surrounding the plane. Giant hordes. So the flight attendant goes down the steps first and she sees the cockroach, starts yelling and screaming, and she flies to India every week. And she jumps up on a table of one of the customs people that's right at the foot of the staircase. And she's yelling and screaming. And then I walk down the steps, and as soon as I touched the ground in India, I felt I was home, even though it was such chaos and madness. And I'd been sitting in the same seat for 32 hours and everything. But as soon as I got there, I felt relaxed and home. So I knew I'd been to India before. It's just intuitive. I had to have been there before. And then, oh, my friend Mayapur just joined. Hare Krishna, my dear friend Mayapur, wherever you are on the screen. Okay, one of my closest friends. Oh, there you are.
Hare Krishna.
My dear friend Mayapur. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bo Mayapur.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So then I'm in India, and after some training, I had to go out for a weekend on my own and see if I can speak, practice my Hindi, and take a train and come back. So they ended up sending me to the town of Thanissur, which is the bus station for Kurukshetra.
Oh.
I took a bus there. So I get off this bus, and in front of me is the temple shaped like a chariot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, wow. And I'd been there just according to Radhanath Swami's book, just a week or two after Radhanath Swami had passed through Kurukshetra.
Oh.
On his journey home. But fate wasn't that we should meet at that time.
Yeah.
And then I went to the university. And at the University of Kurukshetra, I walked in the student union, and I was surrounded by students. It's very rare to see a non-hippie Westerner wander through a place like that. And the hippies then were so stoned, you couldn't talk to them. And the Peace Corps made us cut off all our hair before we went. And of course, Krishna did that to me later on in life anyway. But so I went to the university, and I was surrounded by students. They wanted to talk to me. I thought it was wonderful. And I asked them this question: does anybody really chant Hare Krishna? See, at that time in New York, after Prabhupada came, the other yogis got wind of the money that was available. And every week, some yogi was flying into New York announcing, "I am God." The local newspaper, the Delhi News, made it their centerfold once a week. It was their running joke for several years of all the gods coming to India. We have God everywhere now. And so how can I tell if Prabhupada was legitimate, if these Krishna devotees are legitimate, or they're just some cult? We had Rajneesh and Guru Maharajji and all these weird folks coming to New York after Prabhupada. And how could I tell what was legitimate and what wasn't? So I knew only way to find out was to go to India, because there was so many weird gurus coming to America. So I knew I had to be in India. So now that I'm in India, I want to find out. So I go to when I realized I was at Kurukshetra, because I didn't know I was going to Kurukshetra because the bus station has a different name. So I went to university and I asked the students, "Do you chant Hare Krishna?" And this was right before a war with Pakistan, about 6-9 months before a war with Pakistan. So the students go, "Krishna, we don't care about Krishna. All we care about is Nixon. What do you think of Nixon?" He was the president of America then, kind of an odd fellow.
Yes.
I said, I ran away from all the politics of America. I was involved in fighting Vietnam War and marching for civil rights and all those things. I want to get away from politics. I want to find out why people died, and all they want to do was talk about Nixon. So I talked about Nixon and then left, and very disappointed. And then I got my assignment, and Krishna gave me special mercy. When I was in training in New Delhi. The former Peace Corps workers who I was replacing described their living conditions. And I said, my God, if I ever have to live like that, I'm out of here on the next plane, because I can always quit and they send me home. And then when I got my assignment, it was nothing like they said. Nothing at all like they said. It was much worse. Much, much worse. I lived in the most backward state in India, in the most backward part of the most backward state, in the most backward town, in the most backward district. And that was Bihar. And those who know anything about India understand what I'm talking about. And then I was the remotest place in Bihar, such that the Peace Corps management would never visit me. But it was Krishna's mercy, because I would take a steam locomotive, the old choo-choo train, for an hour drive. Hey, who doesn't want to be on a choo-choo train? I even one time went up to the engineer and I said, in Hindi, can I drive? And he goes, sure. So I fulfilled my childhood dream and drove an old steam locomotive choo-choo train. So who gets to do that in this life? But it was a coal area, so they had these coal-driven choo-choo trains. When I was a kid, I would have model railroads. So maybe you had one, Maharaj, when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to actually be on a real train. So then I would take the train to the Jamshedpur junction and then take an overnight train to Calcutta. It turns out, of all the assignments, I had the closest to Calcutta. Could have been anywhere in India. So I would go to Calcutta because it was the nearest large city. I had very little money. My pay was, $50 a month, but it was enough. I could go to Calcutta. And then I would visit temples and churches, and I would ask people, why are you praying? What are you praying for? I wanted to understand what was going on. And the answer was the equivalent. Do you have Amazon in Croatia? Do they have Amazon there? Mail order, where you order things?
Yeah. I don't know if they have yet.
Well, they all know what Amazon is.
Yeah.
What you do is you put your credit card online and you order whatever you want, and a day or two later, it gets delivered to your door. So when I was in India in the early 70s, it was the equivalent of Amazon. Because people would go to the church or the temple and say, God, this is what I want, and I want it the next day by Federal Express. I want it the next day. It was no different than Amazon. And I was very bewildered. And then I went to Calcutta, and Giriraj Swami was speaking. He was brahmachari then. And I saw a sign, Hare Krishna Festival. I immediately went there, and he was giving such a smart talk. I can still remember parts of the talk. Such a brilliant talk that I said, this finally makes sense to me. First time I'd been in India in 6 months or more that someone had spoken anything that made sense. And then I started visiting the Calcutta temple whenever I go to Calcutta. And then
Albert Road, number 3 Albert Road.
Still there.
Yeah.
And I would stay overnight at the Salvation Army guest house for 5 rupees and visit the temple. And then one time I was there, Prabhupada was there. And somebody said, would you like to meet Prabhupada? I said, yes. So I walk in, and Prabhupada says, so you have a question. And I had just come from Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha received enlightenment. And I sat under an alleged sapling of the same tree the Buddha sat under. And I sat under, said, if the Buddha got enlightenment, what about me? Obviously, nothing happened. So that's life. So then I asked Prabhupada, I said, you have any questions? I said, yes, why not Buddhism? You know, you're Hindus, why not Buddhism? So Prabhupada gave then answered my question with a question. Can anyone guess what Prabhupada's question to me was? Very typical Prabhupada. Yes, Maharaj.
I know what he asked. He asked, so what is Buddhism?
Yes. He said, well, because Prabhupada wanted to discuss not isms, he wanted to discuss philosophy. So what did I think the Buddha said? He wasn't going to tell me what the Buddha said. He wanted to know what philosophy I was thinking. So I said, well, there are fourfold noble and eightfold this, or is it eightfold that and fourfold this? And I started muttering. Finally, I said, I don't know. I can't remember. And Prabhupada goes, then why are you asking? So at that point, I shut up and just listened. So some months later, I was in Calcutta again, and I ran into a devotee who I'd met, and he said, we're having a big festival at Mayapur. I didn't know what Mayapur was. We're giving away, we're feeding refugees from the Bangladesh war. I said, that's interesting. So I took a train up to Navadweep and a boat across the river. And my godbrother Tejas was there. He had been in the Peace Corps. When he saw me get off the boat, we started talking, and we're still friends to this day. And he said to me, would you like to meet Prabhupada? I said, yes, I'd like to see him again. So he took me in to see Prabhupada. This time, I remembered how stupid I was last time. So
you weren't going to ask, what is Buddhism? What about Buddhism?
Well, I didn't want to ask any stupid questions. So I got much more meditative this time. And then the first session I had with Prabhupada, sadly, was not recorded, but it was very introductory. Prabhupada says, who are you? What are you doing? Well, I'm a high school teacher in Bihar, and I'm from New York area, blah, blah, blah. It just went on. And we had a very pleasant conversation. That would have made a much better introduction for the book, but that wasn't recorded. Then the second session, I went to meet with Prabhupada. He called me back to meet with him. Shama Sundar, his secretary, hit the record button. He said, this is interesting. So then we began discussing, the book begins with discussing science teaching. That's why it began there. But that's not how my conversation with Prabhupada began. It began from a different place. I then accidentally hit the correct formula. Now, what does the Gita say about how to approach a spiritual master? Can someone tell me?
Quick, someone.
Someone, anybody.
Anybody.
Unmute and tell me.
How do you approach the guru?
Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him.
Yes. So I thought in my mind, I'm not going to challenge him. I don't know if he's the bona fide guru. I came to India to find out, but I think he might be. So I'm not going to challenge him. In my mind, I remember thinking that. Second, I was feeding the refugees. So I was rendering service. And then Madana Jivana, what happens if you approach him that way? What's the result? He says he can give you the truth because he has seen it. So Prabhupada gave me so I accidentally hit the right formula and started approaching Prabhupada. Then Prabhupada quoted a verse to me. And this is very mystical. This is the first verse Prabhupada quoted to me and the last verse he quoted to me. Now, and I didn't know any Sanskrit. And he says it in Sanskrit and asks me if I understand it. That was very mystical because Prabhupada knew I didn't know Sanskrit. That was already clear.
So which verse was it?
Well, I've already given a hint. Can anybody remember? It's from my college days.
Apichat sudara-acharo.
Yes, yes. The first verse he quotes to me is the only verse I knew in English in the whole Gita. The one that, for reasons that I can't understand, bewildered me when I was in college, because I was a very black and white thinker. I said, you're good or you're evil. You can't be both. I was very linear, yet like a digital computer, yes or no. And I had to retrain my brain to think yes, no, or maybe. And the way people think in India or China is yes, no, or maybe. But the way people think in the West is yes or no. For those who are computer geeks, the real world is like an analog computer. The Eastern world is like an analog computer. In the West, we think like digital computers, for those who are computer geeks. So Prabhupada, I didn't realize till years later that Prabhupada had quoted the only verse I knew. It all of a sudden it hit me. So then we engaged in an intimate conversation. And after 2 days, at Gaur Purnima evening, the wonderful, beautiful, most amazing devotee I maybe ever met came up to me. There were no lights in Mayapur. There were 50, 60 devotees and one guest, one English-speaking guest, me. And every devotee was very anxious to preach at me.
Which year was this?
72.
Right.
Mayapur festival. There was no Mayapur, there were no buildings. It was just a bhajan kutir and the only building in Mayapur.
Paka building.
Yeah. Well, of any kind at all, because we just had tents. Was this? That was it. The bhajan kutir. That was smaller then. There was nothing else. We had a men's tent, a women's tent. There was a third building, an outhouse for Prabhupada, a bathroom of straw, till someone had the brilliant idea to put a stick of incense in it. And then 1 minute later, poof, that was gone. That didn't last very long. Amazing how fast it can burn up.
Dry grass. Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we pumped water from a well. There was nothing to buy in Mayapur. I mean, there were no shops or anything. So it was full moon evening, and Yamuna comes up to me and says, "You are so fortunate. You are so fortunate. Prabhupada's giving you all his time." I mean, I was with Prabhupada all day, every day. I would be serving prasadam and somebody would run, "Prabhupada wants to see you." And I'd go back to see him. This is happening multiple times a day. Because Prabhupada realized with 70 zealous preachers, he better protect me. You don't know, everyone was under 30 and most were under 25. Many were under 20 and everyone was enthusiastic to preach.
How old were you at this time?
22. And there was one victim, one person to talk to.
One victim.
So then Yamuna came up with tears rolling down her eyes. She said, "You are so lucky." And her tears were glistening in the moonlight. There was no light but from the moon, full moon, Gaur Purnima. "You're so lucky. Prabhupada's giving you all time." And she basically gave me what we call in those days a love bomb. Like a bomb an airplane drops, a love bomb. And she dropped so much love on me, it scared me. So I went into the rice paddy behind the pandal. I mean, it was dry season, so it wasn't wet. I went in there and just collapsed and did something I normally don't do. I just started crying like a baby. I was thinking, I can ask so many theoretical questions of Prabhupada, but I don't want to lose my hair and all these things. And it got very scary to me. I got very scared. The next day, Prabhupada calls me in. So you have some questions? I said, yes, but I have to leave now and go back to my teaching assignment. And Prabhupada goes, do not talk, L-E-A-V-E. Leave. Talk L-I-V-E. Live. And I said, so you want me to stay? And Prabhupada goes, yes, please stay. And I said, okay. And he said, good boy, like you say to your dog. So at that point, I knew I was Prabhupada's dog. And then our conversations changed and they got very personal. It wasn't me asking hypothetical questions. It got into an intimate discussion in which I had to reveal my mind in sometimes embarrassing ways, and everything changed. So I was told to speak the inner story of perfect questions. I probably went on too long, but since I was told to speak about it,
no, that's
and
wonderful.
for those of you who have heard me tell this story in other venues, I apologize to you for having to.
I'm sure they appreciate hearing again.
Yeah, but so I'll stop here and answer any questions or any discussions or anything you like.
I would have so many things to say, but I want to give chance to others. Okay. I want to also call attention on the chat. We have Bharatavarsha Das from Serbia has sent you a note. Do you see it there?
Let me see. Now I'm scrolling through the notes. What was that name again, please?
Bharatavarsha.
I see it. Because of them, I became attracted, finding right answers that bugged me. First book I read and blow my mind. Thank you very much, Bharatavarsha. Very good. By the way, Bharatavarsha, I have 2 services in the ISKCON now. Well, 3. I help out with the Bhakti Center in New York, but 2 main ones. The ISKCON Resolve conflict resolution, co-director of that. And the other one is a Bhaktivedanta Institute. And we spend a lot of time at the Bhaktivedanta Institute discussing Bharatavarsha. A lot of time discussing what is Bharatavarsha.
The cosmic.
With a book soon discussing, is the earth flat? I'll give you a hint. No.
Oh.
But some people think it is because they misunderstand Bharatavarsha from the 5th canto.
I suppose a lot of people ask you that, is the earth flat?
And did we go to the moon, and how far is the moon?
Right.
These are the most common BI questions, like that. And we're going to be publishing on all these things for everyone's benefit.
I sent on the chat a link to Bhaktivedanta Institute for Higher Studies. So anyone wants to look and see. This is a new initiative since, 2 years now?
Actually,
that you've sort of revived.
It's actually been.
But you're one of the founders. 6 years?
I was one of the original BI devotees back in that was 1977. We had the first international conference on Life Comes from Life 1 month before Prabhupada left us. And that's me in the center, and Srup Damodar and Sadhu-bhavan and Madhava and Gyana. And this is at Krishna Balaram Mandir, and these are Prabhupada's 5 nerds.
Yeah, you look like a real nerd there. with your cute ties. You all look so cute.
Yeah. One night, Prabhupada was so ill and he couldn't see very well. So every night he'd at the conference, he'd call us into his room, and he would want to know our Sankirtan scores, because we're having a conference in which we were having some big scientists came, and then we were discussing, does life come from life or matter? So Prabhupada wanted to know our Sankirtan scores, meaning what were their arguments and what were your arguments? So we would tell Prabhupada, he was very pleased. And one night we walked in and Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, Prabhupada couldn't see very well then, oh, your scientists are here. They're wearing suits and ties. And Prabhupada goes, get them chairs. Of course, there were only one chair. So two of us sat on one chair and the rest of us squatted down like this, pretending we were on chairs because we didn't know what to. We were then a floor society. Now we're a geriatric society to some degree, and you better have chairs for us, otherwise we're not gonna...
You also mentioned ISKCON Resolve. Some devotees may not be aware that ISKCON Resolves exist. If you can say something in about 2 minutes, we usually stop at this time. Of course, we like to keep talking for hours, but...
Oh, I didn't leave enough time for questions. I apologize.
No, that's okay. We'll have you on again sometime.
Okay. ISKCON Resolve, this was started by Braja Bihari in 2002, and I was the first class of trainees. And the idea was that there's always conflict among human beings. And there has to be a better way than a hierarchy going up to the boss. Okay, let me go see the guru, the temple president, and the GBC and make decisions. It was just tearing ISKCON apart. So we said there has to be a better way. And Braja Bihari was able to recruit this Harvard scholar to come to Mayapur twice to convince the GBC that there's a better way. And we formed ISKCON Resolve. And so we try to resolve conflicts among devotees.
By mediation.
By mediation, by careful listening, by attentive listening. Sometimes that's all somebody wants, is just somebody to talk to. By mediation is our main approach. And 80–90% of the time, the differences are resolved. And the cases can be very
You're
complex.
a professional. Yeah. You're a professional mediator as well.
Yeah, I am.
As well as being a professional geologist.
Yeah, I've gone back to school for mediation, and I have, certificates and certified by the courts and all of that. So it's a good, see, when I joined the movement, I had a problem. To me, Samadarshana was a great importance to me. Very, very important to me. But when I joined the movement, it was sometimes us and the karmis, us and them. And I was starting to lose my sense of Samadarshana. So by taking up mediation, it enabled me to get a feel for Samadarshana. And that was very important to me. I can put one other thing on the screen here before I go that I think is very useful. Something Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, you helped us out with. Let me pull it up very quickly. This is the Gita values. I believe you were an editor of that for us, weren't you?
Was I?
The Gita values? No, Shanika, I thought you might have. I could be mistaken. Here it is. With the help of Shanika Rishi and others, we formed we developed values for ISKCON based on the Gita. And these are the 8 values: equal vision, freedom of choice, non-violence, teaching by example, humility, God, I got to work on that one, and affection. And we thought that if ISKCON could be guided by these values, ISKCON would become a much stronger institute.
Mm-hmm.
And Shanika Rishi and Mary Rowe, who I think you might have met, our advisor, and Henry and others, we all worked on this for a while. Seisha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wonderful. We won't keep you longer. I know you have a full day of program. Sometime we want to have you again. And sometime we want to also have your good wife, Mother Bhakti.
Okay.
I'll tell the devotees, she is a professional family counselor. That's her kind of designation, isn't it?
Yeah, she's a marriage and family therapist. And when we were in Slovenia, we actually, she set up a counseling day for devotee couples.
Oh, yeah. And there was probably a long line at her door.
There was a very long line.
Okay. We won't keep you. There is a very nice question here from Devashri Radhika, but I think it's going to take, to give it proper attention, we should wait, if you don't mind, Devashri. Yeah, we'll leave it for another time.
I like that question a lot. So I am going, one question I can answer, I am going to post the Gita values into the, I can post it into the chat if you like.
Yes, please do.
Just take me just a brief moment here. And
no problem.
It should appear in the chat in just a moment. And then you just click on it and it's yours. And I will also, if there's somebody would like to correspond with me on ISKCON Resolve or Bhaktivedanta Institute or how to tell jokes while giving a Bhagavatam class and get away with it, I'll post it.
That's very kind of you. I was gonna warn the devotees, don't snow you under with emails and questions, but you're very kindly inviting, so I won't keep anyone from connecting with you. Yeah, thank you again so much. But yeah, before we end, because we do want to catch your Gita values if you find it.
You know, did I post it? I might not have posted it properly. I'm gonna click it again, and this time I'll do it properly. I think I did it. Let me try this again. Yeah. Here it is. Okay. Okay. Now it should be there for everyone.
Yes, now we have it. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's all download it before we close the session.
And some temples have adopted that as their core values.
Yeah.
This is how we deal with each other. It's based on relationships. What should our relationships, what values should our relationships be built upon?
Yeah. No, I'm familiar with it myself, but it's very good that we have it. And it would be a nice subject for the rest of us, a topic for us to talk about in one of our Saturday sessions, if you like. I see nodding heads. Kaveri is nodding. Okay. Brahmatirtha Prabhu, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. Sorry, I didn't leave enough time for questions. Sometimes I go on a little bit, but people
Yeah,
had asked
well,
about the inner
no, it makes it, now we have a good excuse to pester you again. And please convey my best to Mother Bhakti.
I will. And Maharaj, we expect you to come stay at our BI house, use our library, which is also, we have privileges at the university library. And
I
for your
prefer to
research
stay
and
at your,
writing.
thank you, but I prefer to stay at your house as I did for 2 weeks, because then I get such nice, I get totally spoiled.
We would love for you to stay here. We would love that. And these weird COVID times, we urge every one of you to be safe.
Yes.
I've had my shots and it works because every time I go past a 5G tower, I light up. So I know it's working.
Okay, on that happy note, thank you, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gora Premanande, Haribo.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna Jai Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Haribo. We have, by the way, Brahmatirtha all the way from Beijing. We have devotees here and Argentina. So we're spread around a bit.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, very good. Such a nice program. You do this every week.
Yes, since the pandemic started last April, we started.
The pandemic's a double-edged sword. This is the blessing side.
Yeah, this is the blessing side.
I never would have met all of you without the pandemic.
Right.
So Bhakti COVID has taken away some of our dear friends, but it has also connected many of us.
Yes, that's an interesting way to put it. Okay, Hare Krishna. It's lunchtime over here now, so I'll say goodbye.
Oh, just send me, fax me some.
Okay, will do. Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.